Welcome to Industrial Applications Level 2. And this video is on creating a printable document of a connected component workbench project. Whenever you've created a project under connected component workbench, it's a good idea to get a hard copy or a printable copy that you can review later. Sometimes when you're working at it and you're staring at the screen, you'll forget things or your mind will go on a certain tangent and you'll get frustrated. If you have a printable copy, you can go back and you can say, okay, this is maybe where I should circle and make edits before you jump into the program. And if, as you can see, this particular one that we're looking at has quite a bit of different programs stacked with it, so you can get a little lost. Now, if you want to print a version of these, you can use the shortcut Control P, or you can go up to where it says File, and you want the document generator. Now, the document generator is, again, you can see the shortcut there is Control P, and it's a good idea at this juncture to point out that all of these cryptic descriptions are actually shortcuts. And if you get used to the keyboard shortcuts, you can save yourself a lot of time and trouble, because you can jump to different spots that otherwise you need a click and a click and a click to get to. So when you do the document generator, the important thing to remember is where you initiate it. And let me show you what I mean by that. So here we have a whole stack of programs that are running within the Micro 850 project called Missteps Manufacturing 5. So if I go to, just as normal, I go to production count. I'm going to open it up, take a look at what's going on inside. It has some logic, no comments, but it has some logic in there. Now if I just want that and maybe use that, print it off, and I can write scratch notes before I actually type in what I'm after, then I can select that, and because it's highlighted, if I hit Control P, it'll pop up this box and you get some selections. But notice that the choices on the left are restricted. You get programs, variables, ASCII2 text, which we'll discuss in a future video. You have a title page, table of contents, and then the actual program. Now, when I do these, I don't include a table of content simply because the table of content, I know it's in it, there's basically going to be one program. So I usually uncheck that, and it's probably not a bad idea. I'm going to show you in a moment when you do the entire project. And if you do not deselect some things, you're going to end up with a novel, and you'll be going through all kinds of stuff that you're not really interested in. There are applications, and I will show you the difference between the two in just a moment. So the next thing to remember is orientation. Now, if you pick portrait, it's going to be the standard version that you would have for most documents. However, it has to do with the way the information is displayed. So I'm going to show you both. I'm going to hit, in this case here, I'm going to do portrait, and I'm just going to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to even throw in the table of contents so you can see how much space you can save. And I'm going to hit generate. And it's going to ask me, well, where would you like your file saved? And I'm going to put this in my file folder. And once you do this, once for this project, it'll remember it. So the next time you go to save it, it'll know, oh, okay, I know what that is. And I'm just going to put this, if you want to create a new file folder, right click, new file folder, documented projects, open that up, and now I'm going to say okay. So this is, notice how at the bottom it says production count. So if I don't remember my project name, if I remember my project name, it's fine. If I don't, I might want to embellish that. So I might give it a short form of missteps 5 underscore. So I know it's, oh, that's that missteps one. Okay, fair enough. I'm going to hit save. Generates the document. And then it says, okay, do you want to open it? Sure. So this will open it up in Word. Here's our title page. Now when you're doing this as part of your submissions, the title page is where I'm going to start typing when I do a review of your program, what works, what doesn't work, what needs improvement, what comments are missed. This is where I'm going to type it. So it gives me a blank sheet to work from. But we'll scroll down. There's our table of contents that we just killed a tree for one thing. Okay, so we don't really need a table of contents. These are the variables that were created for this particular program, the local variables, not the global. There are times that comes in handy, and again, it's application and what is necessary to make the program work. Then we start with our rung. There's no rung description, so it's not showing it for us. And you can see they can get quite small. The problem comes when you have a large rung of logic. You get it cut off on the right hand side and then stuck as a separate entity on the left hand side. And you can see even some of the variable boxes have been truncated or chopped in half is more accurate. It becomes difficult to follow and look at the logic before attempting to run it. So I'm going to close this. And I'm just going to pop to my next thing I'm working on, but I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to say this time I want it in landscape. I'm going to lose the table of contents because I don't really need it. We're going to discuss the ASCII text in a future video. ASCII text is a different method of entering and it does have a lot of power, so we're going to mention that in the future. Okay, so we're going to hit generate a second time. And I'm going to actually use the same file name. Yep, I don't care. That's fine. Really quick. And now I want to take a look at it again. And it's a little wider format, a little easier to read. But you don't have as likely a point where the logic is going to be chopped and moved. It's an easier way to view the logic itself. So when you go to export it, let's just keep a couple things, or export it when you generate a program. Let's go back here. Where are we here? Keep these points in mind. We don't need a table of content, but we need it to go into landscape. Now that we've seen that version, that's just strictly a single program. So I'm going to go cancel. I'm going to move the cursor up to the top and highlight the micro 850. That is our total project. So now when I press Control and P together, I have a whole lot more available to me. And here it also gives me the option of selecting global variables. So I'm going to leave it exactly the way it is, and again I'm going to go back to landscape because portrait, well, you've seen the problem, and we're going to go generate, and I'm going to make this one a little bit different. I'm going to call that, and I'm going to add to the word all, and I'm going to go CCWB. Taking a lot more time. Do you want to open it? Yes, please. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have now. Table of contents is quite extensive. Okay, great. We've got a pretty picture. We have memory, embedded I/O. So these are all our standard came with that particular one. Now in this particular case, the file type was saved as a simulator, so it's going to behave a little bit differently because of the number of inputs and outputs. But suffice it to say, here's our global variables we use. Again, on a larger, bigger picture, if you're working on a larger project, this kind of information is kind of handy because it's already presented for you and you can go back and double check. Oh, I can see here, without even opening the file, looking at it, I can flip through my book and go, okay, digital input 16 is not used. Great, I can assign that. Neither is 17. All the rest, these are not assigned because there's no aliases. I'm going to make that assumption and I'm going to start writing my notes based on that. We're going to go further down. Lots and lots of it. Just killed 3 trees. 4 trees. Getting all our system variables. Some of these system variables we're going to talk about because they're actually quite handy. We'll probably talk about that in level 2. And then we get into our master program, the local variables, pardon me, for the master program. There's our master, rung 1, rung 2. We're into the next one, and every single one of them is going to have the local variables. And you can see this is quite a document. How many pages? 46 pages if we were to print this whole thing off. Now it's full and it's comprehensive. There's absolutely no doubt about that. It's completely there, but that's a lot of printing, and even the larger programs in landscape, you're still going to get this chop in half. There's a methodology that I will show you in a future video where you can reduce the size of these instructions that we see here and the amount of space they take up, and it kind of squishes it off a little tighter together. But if you have a large rung, it's going to get stretched out. There's not much you can do about it. So it's a little unfortunate. This particular case, going in the other direction, I don't think would help, but and as you can see, it's quite comprehensive. So that's what it looks like when you do the whole project. Now when you go to save your submissions, what I'd like you to do, I'm going to close this for a moment, and I'll close this one as well. I would like you to make sure you select, okay, thank you for that little announcement. I would like you to select the micro from the project organizer so that all of the programs that you create will be shown at once. I don't have to open up 5 or 6 files, and it'll save you uploading time. And then when you do that, I don't need to look at the global variables or the device configuration. I'm just going to look at it so I can take particular rungs and I can place comments on that particular rung. And I might show you a screenshot in between. I can use the word editor function and kind of open it up and say, okay, by the way, here's another comment or another instruction, etc. So when you're doing this, I've got a lot of programs. That's why it's ridiculously large. If you open up each one, you can remove the local variables, and that saves quite a bit. In your case, because most of your programs are projects, are likely going to be 2, maybe 3 programs, you can leave the local variables in, and I can see your thinking, and when you set them up I can go, okay, they set that up as a local variable, that might have been better as a global variable, etc. Okay, and that basically is all there is to it, to printing off your project into a document. It will show all the rung comments, so I'm going to put here my rung comment that I didn't put before. Make it a little bit larger because I've got middle-aged eyes. This is the first rung. You can't get any simpler than that. And if I generate, that's exactly what it's going to say. So let's just do that. I'm going to select just the program. Control P. Don't need the local variables. Don't need the table of contents. Make it a landscape because that's what we do. That's how we rock and roll. And I'm going to go generate. And I'll put ms5_ Duke. Yep. Really fast. Yep. little announcement. Now what can happen, it didn't put the comments. Huh. What did I do wrong? Let's go back and review. Okay. Table of contents, local variables. Cancel. I have a rung here. This is curious. It's the first time this has happened, so I'm just okay, Control P. Learning is going to occur. Don't need the local variables. Don't need the table of content. We'll just leave it portrait just because we're trying it out. There it is. This is the first rung. And usually it'll appear here. Now I think in this particular case, because I know I put a second comment, it may have been because of the formatting that it didn't have enough room and that line took up a space and they just gave you the next rung of logic. But it will do the rung comments. And that is how you export into a printed document for a connective component workbench. When you submit, you're going to be submitting both the ARC file and you're going to be submitting this documentation.